Joining me now live is Victorian opposition leader Michael O'Brien. Michael O'Brien, let's firstly start with today's step out of lockdown. The curfew has been dropped, some students allowed back at school, more industries to reopen. Is it a step in the right direction?
Danica, too little, too late. We've still got years 7, 8, 9 and 10 students not allowed back into the classroom, and potentially they may never see the inside of a classroom for the rest of this year. There are still too many businesses that are ready, willing and able to open with a COVID-safe work plan who are going to be denied that opportunity. We still see far too many restrictions on Victoria's individual friends, unwarranted restrictions. Now, Daniel Andrews has not been listening to the modellers who say that his restrictions are too stringent. He hasn't been listening to the epidemiologists who say he needs targeted, evidence-driven restrictions, not one size fits all. So huge letdown today because Victorians were hoping for better, and frankly, Victorians deserve better than what we got from the Premier.
Brett Sutton said today, though, that the epidemiology has changed, and they referred to Burnett modelling, which suggested that there would be an 86% chance of resurgence and up to 100 cases a day within 4 weeks had the final step been imposed back on the 14th of September. So does this suggest, though, that this more slow and steady approach is actually the right one for the state?
Well, no, Danica, it's very interesting that Daniel Andrews, when he announced his roadmap, announced that he was based this on modelling from a supercomputer. He quoted Professor Tony Blakely from the University of Melbourne and said, "This is the science that dictates the path we've set." Well, Professor Blakely has come out, and he's one of the modellers who said Daniel Andrews has got it wrong. He said Daniel Andrews' restrictions are too stringent. So it seems that the science can change depending on what the Premier wants to do. He'll go with one model one week, he'll choose a different model another week. All I know is that Victorians are locked down. We are seeing people lose jobs, lose businesses, lose contact with family and friends. The emotional toll on this for Victorians, including especially our kids who can't get back into school, is immense. And as I say, Victorians deserved and earned a lot better than what we got from Daniel Andrews today.
The dates, though, to the roadmap, out of the roadmap, they've now been thrown out. It's now on a case-by-case number basis. The next step out of lockdown has been brought forward by a week, now expected on October 19. Given that the state has been under such harsh restrictions, does this not give Victorians some hope that there is a light coming in about 3 weeks' time?
Well, Danica, Andrews is still maintaining this, what many people regard as being unreasonably high benchmark before we can get to a next level of easing of restrictions. He still wants to see an average of 5 cases a day or fewer over a rolling 14-day average. Now, I make the point that New South Wales averaged 10 cases a day in July and August. Yet New South Wales was able to significantly open. Businesses were open, schools were back in business, people were able to see family and friends. Yes, there are COVID-safe practices in place. But my point is Daniel Andrews should be looking to New South Wales as the example of how you can safely reopen, live with this virus. As long as you've got good contact tracing, you can jump on outbreaks and everyone else can get on with their lives. And that's where Victoria should be going as well.
We've seen now metropolitan Melbourne's daily average over 14 days. That's now at 22.1. Regional Victoria's 14-day rolling average now at 0.6. That's quite a good number compared to where the state was a couple of weeks ago. So when we look at that trigger point of 5 cases to be able to move to that next step, are you saying that that's not a reasonable number?
I'm saying there's a long way between 22 and 5. Particularly when you're talking about not 5 on a day, Danica, we're talking about 5 as an average over a rolling 14-day period. As I say, I see no reason why we couldn't adopt the New South Wales position. If you get to an average of 10 cases a day, why shouldn't we move to the same level of easing of restrictions that New South Wales has had? Is there that much difference between Victoria's position and New South Wales' position? If you believe Daniel Andrews, he says that our contact tracing problems have been fixed up. He's bought new fax machines. He's upgraded the IT. If you believe Andrews, there is no reason why Victoria shouldn't be able to ease restrictions in line with New South Wales.
I just want to move on now to the situation regarding the resignation of the Health Minister, Jenny Mikakos. You've been quite vocal in calling on Premier Daniel Andrews to resign over the matter. Yesterday, the government moved to impose Martin Foley as Health Minister. Do you think that the government is making headwinds now to get back on track after this resignation?
This is a government that is deeply divided amongst themselves. deeply divided. To have the health minister resign, not because she believed she was taking responsibility or being accountable for what's happened. She resigned because she basically said she could not accept what Daniel Andrews had said to the inquiry. She did not believe his evidence. When you have senior ministers in the government resigning because they believe the Premier gave misleading evidence to an inquiry, this is a dysfunctional government. It's basically a one-man show. Andrews admitted that he didn't seek advice from the Chief Health Officer over the curfew. He didn't seek advice from the Chief Commissioner of Police over the curfew. Now, isn't it funny that today he announces the curfew's going, just as a Liberal Party member and small businesswoman with the Liberal Party's support is taking Supreme Court action tomorrow to challenge the very legality of the curfew.
He says that curfew, though, was based on health advice. Are you saying that that's not the case?
I'm absolutely saying that's not the case because Andrews has admitted the Chief Health Officer never sought the curfew in the first place. Never sought it in the first place. Daniel Andrews will say and do anything that is convenient on the day. The fact is, Andrews has lost control of, or had lost control of the virus. So his answer was to actually control Victorians. That's why we've seen longer stage 4 restrictions that even Wuhan have received. We've gone from being the world's most livable city to the world's lockdown city. And the devastation that this has caused, not just economically, but socially and emotionally for so many people, will not just bounce back. And that's why we are calling for a sensible, safer reopening of Victoria.
Michael O'Brien, unfortunately, we have run out of time. Appreciate you joining me this afternoon. Thank you.
Thanks, Danica.